Underrated, underrated, underrated success. Underrated, underrated, underrated success. Underrated, underrated.
All right, it's PJ Young. This is another edition of Underrated Success. Today I got a special guest, my man, Will Blalock. What's going on, my brother?
Nothing, man. I'm doing great. Glad to be here. And it's been a long time.
You know, I was
We were roommates.
We definitely were roommates. We'll get into that. But you're someone that I always admired, even though I'm a little older than you, but I've always admired. And having you on the show means a lot to me, brother. Like you coming through, I was like, damn, my man Will Blalock's coming through. Mm-hmm. So it means a lot. But we'll get right into it. We'll talk about when we was roommates. So I have a story about Will, and I like to tell stories, so you know. But so Will, you know, he was drafted. You know, you were drafted and all that. So we were roommates. We had a nice condo, 2-bedroom condo.
It was a nice setup.
Nice
yeah,
setup.
It was.
The first probably week we needed groceries, so we went to the supermarket. So we went to the supermarket and we got all his groceries. And Will was like, you know what, I got it. I was like, nah, knowing damn well you get paid more than me. But I said, I got it. He was like, nah, I got it, bro. I got it. The funny part is we rode that cart all the way from the store to our spot, and it was nowhere close either.
I remember it was a troop walking.
It was a troop. So that's a testament of who you are as a person. You know what I mean? Like, you know what? I do make more than you, but at the same time, I'm not going to act like I'm better than you. So I appreciate that. That was dope. I mean, I got some other stories, but that one touched me because I was like, yo, this is the really first time that we were like together talking and being who we were. So that was dope. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to ask you a question. What does success look like to you?
That's a good question. It's a lot. I mean, because even with my own pedestal, as far as like, are you asking like, as far as my own success personally?
I'll give you an example. So for me, when I was growing up, success was the Wall Street look. So a suit, tie, a brother went watching, he's looking at the newspaper, leg folded. You know, that was, to me, that was, if you had a suit on, you were successful. You know, you've made it. So what does it look like to you as far as when you were growing up? Obviously, basketball was one of the things, or sports. We all think about sports. But now that you're older, what is success to you?
Well, that's a two-part question. So when I was younger, I grew up, like I said, I grew up in Mission Hill Project. So
In Boston, Mass.
To be honest with you, success to me as a young kid in the 80s, growing up in the 90s, was just making it to C21. That was like one of my biggest goals. I'll never forget.
Wow.
I had a couple guys, and it's sad to say, I got a picture from a BNBL championship that I won in like the mid-90s. It was 13 under. Half that team is dead. So even when I look at that, that made the goal, like 21 was like a big deal.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people that I grew up with didn't get a chance to see 21. They either were dead or in jail for the rest of their life before we even made it to like our teenage years, so to speak. So success to me in the 80s and 90s was just to make it to C21 because I didn't think I would. But now that as I got older, I mean, just being a dad kind of took over my life. So I would always say, even with me, like my dad was a big part of my life. Mm-hmm. Success to me was, man, raising my kids enough to make sure they succeed in life, regardless of what they're going to do in life. I'm not going to judge them if they don't want to play basketball. Just being successful, going to college, getting a degree, stuff that I didn't get a chance to do, although I was put in that position to do so.
Right.
So I would say that would be success to me, having a job, making 6 figures, and the American way, just doing things the right way.
Take care of responsibility. There's no right or wrong answer. I just throw that question out because the show is called Underrated Success. And I'm curious on just what success looks like to everybody. You know, like I'm saying, my success has changed too. Like a suit, I can go buy a suit at Men's Warehouse for $200 or something. And then someone could look at me and say, oh, you broke. You know, $200 suit is nothing, you know? But to me, it's the look. It was the look when I was growing up. So let's stay with that and talk about, you said Mission Hill is where you grew up and you were raised. Talk about that part of your life and how you were raised and brought up in the environment that you were a product, because you're not a product of your environment. So how did you steer from that?
I would say my mom. She was a big part of that. And I had a sister who's 7 years older than me that lived in the same household as us. And she kind of was the pedigree and she was kind of like the hierarchy when it came to like
She didn't
everything. Yeah, she didn't play no games. So she went to the Burke, but she also was like a straight A student. She got a scholarship playing basketball at
Dope.
UMass Lowell. And she was same thing. She was on the dean's list every semester, but she also led the team in scoring, assists,
Right.
steals, rebounds at 5'4", 5'5". She was like the pedigree. She was the what I wanted to be, and she kind of steered me away from, selling drugs and gambling and shooting at people.
Right.
And, because it's easy to fall victim to the streets, but I had her to lean on, and then my mom was kind of like right behind her, like, yep, we're going to keep you on the straight and narrow. You're not going to go stay out all night. You're not going to not go to school. So
you had the blueprint.
right,
See,
and that's what it was.
Yeah, I used to tell my older brother that you were the blueprint for me what not to do. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, and he used to get mad at me saying that, but now he's older, he understood. He was the one, like you said, he was telling me, you don't need to do that. Don't be stealing out the store when you got money in your pocket. Don't ask for $5 when you got $250 in your pocket because you have some money. So he was the blueprint what not to do, because he got in trouble at an early age. He used to say, hey, you don't need to be doing that, because I did it, I know.
Right.
So as far as, I know we were talking about a lot of people we lost and just going that way. I'm sure that has a role too, because you losing people at an early age steers you away from what they were doing,
Right. And where I grew up at, you didn't have to be in the street to lose your life. You could just be at the wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah.
So she always kept me on the straight and narrow, so to speak. But even when I wanted to, because I didn't really have no curfew growing up. But when I start, seeing people get shot at 12 and 13, I just kind of knew, you know what?
It's time to go.
The street lights is on, it's 9:30. It's time to take my ass in the house versus I'm just going to be out all night with the older guys because my mother's not really looking for me, so to speak. But I kind of police myself when it came to stuff like that too. And I had older people just a little bit older than me that kind of told me, you know what? It's time, you should go in the house. You got school tomorrow, stuff like that. So it was kind of the neighborhood raised me, but also my mom kind of was real. She was stern when it came to that type of stuff.
So where's basketball? When did you start to play basketball?
To be honest with you, I want to say around 8 years old, I would say. 8, 9 years old. I'll never forget, kid from the neighborhood, Tory Mercer. We call him Hank the Bank. He played 35 and over with us.
Say Hank the Bank.
He played on the Hawks.
Okay.
He signed me up. I had to be 8, 9 years old. And he was a little bit older. He's probably 4 or 5 years older than me. But 13 under down mission was a big deal. You get real jerseys.
Yeah.
There's real NBA teams like Celtics, Warriors, Kings.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We got real teams. And to be a part of that, especially it was an all winter thing. It was a big deal. And to sign up, you had to, I think the cutoff, you had to be 7, 8 years old. So I told him to sign me up. They drafted me for his team, which was the Celtics at the time. And I was the youngest boy on the team. And that was a big deal because everyone's grandmother, grandfather, everybody's coming to the games.
Right.
It's actually your first experience with a real crowd, so to speak. So at 8 years old, trying to have that experience. And even though it was 13 under, so the 13-year-old was going to get most of the run.
Right.
It was a good experience for me because that's what I figured, that's what I wanted to do. But if you was able to go pro with William Bikes, I probably would have did that instead of playing basketball. And people don't even know that.
Wheelie and bikes?
William Bikes was my thing.
So you was nice at Wheelie and
I
bikes.
still got the record admission for William
Get
Bikes.
out of here,
I swear to God.
So what were they called? The 12 o'clock boys over there in Philly?
Yeah,
So
that's in, what's the name? That's in Baltimore.
Baltimore. So that's where you were. You was doing the wheeling.
I still got the record in Mission for William Bikes.
What's the record?
It's a true story. So do you know where AK's is?
I do. Yeah.
It used to be Texas Barbecue.
Yeah.
I willied with a kid that actually raps now, if you know him, E. Burton. He's from my neighborhood. Me and him battled. I willied from where AK's is now,
Right.
all the way to Copley without stopping.
So that's about 3 miles.
I don't know if it's not 3 miles, but
It might be.
Let's say
On a
like
bike,
2.
wheeling
We'll
2
say
miles.
2.
That's still a long way to be wheeling a
without
bicycle.
stopping. And that was the rule. Like, so even if the light going against you, like, so say you're coming straight,
He's playing chicken.
but the MBTA bus is coming, you couldn't stop. You still had to make that turn or whatever, and they just had to beep at you.
So you was
And
just
that's-
like,
and that was my thing, wheeling and
Willie,
bike.
so can you still wheelie a bicycle?
I can.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That was
Yep.
never my thing. I can never wheelie.
Yeah, wheeling and bikes was like that was like one of my favorite things.
That's
Catching snakes.
catching. Where was you catching snakes at, bro?
Behind Osco Drugs. So where Fridays is. There used to be an Osco Drugs there.
So you was catching snakes and wheeling, and that was your pastime.
Those was my things. Before basketball came, those was my things.
That's wild. That's a fun.
Yeah.
That's a fun fact right there.
Yeah.
I wish I knew that a long time ago. That would have been all over Facebook.
Yeah. Some people had pets, cats, dogs, all that shit. I was the only kid in the projects that had a python. I got it for Christmas.
You got a python for Christmas. Wow.
In like the second grade.
So we'll move on. So you early on, you 8 years old, you started hooping.
Mm-hmm.
And when did you know you was good? When you was nice?
I would say like 14, 15.
Yeah.
Yeah. I started playing with the grown men at 14, 15, and then that kind of like propelled me. To be honest with you, the dudes from down my way who coached me named Jamal Galloway. It was a Mike Bivens. Mm-hmm. It was in like 98, 99. Mike Biv had his first annual tournament at his court where they named after him now.
Yeah.
So we had like teams from Chicago.
Mike Bivens, new addition.
Chicago, Atlanta, Philly, DC. It was like 8, 9 cities, and then it was Boston. I think we had like 1 or 2 teams. But Mission Hill, our projects had a team. And Jamal Galloway knocked on my door. It was early in the morning. We probably had like a 10, 11 o'clock game. They already had like a power, Frankie Patton. They had like a Eggy McCrae.
Yeah, shout out
They
to
had
McCray.
they had a crazy squad already.
I gotta get Eggy
So-
on the show.
He asked me, did I want to play? And he was like, well, it's a $20,000 tournament. I'm in high school. I don't know.
You're young, right.
Yeah, I didn't know nothing about that.
Violations all over
And
the
right,
place.
I didn't know nothing about that either.
Yeah.
But he was already hip on it. So when I told him I would play, he just put my cousin Satch's name in the book instead of having like my name in the book.
Right.
Which was, it worked out. But once I played in that, and I played well against Philly, who had the dude from N1, AO. He was on that team.
Yep.
And we played against DC, and we played against a couple other teams. And then in the championship, we lost to Shamgard and Kareem Reed and them from New York. But after that tournament, I felt like, you know what? I could probably be successful at this. Yeah. And after that, it was kind of like a springboard for me. I went from kind of like the high school dropout to being ranked in the top 10 in the country as far as point guards within that summer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I went from not really playing AAU to winning the nationals.
Wow. And
All in that same summer with BABC.
BABC, okay.
Yeah.
BABC, I feel like they don't get the notoriety that they probably should, because they've been around for a long time, winning tournaments. Of course, there's other programs now, but they got celebrity or star backing. I feel that BABC was doing that early on without all that. So now the AU is kind of watered down as far as whoever has the biggest bag.
That's because everybody got a team. As long as you got money, you can get a sponsor. Everybody can be sponsored. See, when we played AAU, it was only like 2 or 3 teams.
Right.
BABC, Metro, and it was really the third team might have been like Middlesex Magic or something that represented the state. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Now it's completely different. It's a whole nother game because there's so much money involved with getting kids and being able to get money for kids. It's like it's ridiculous now.
So high school, we'll talk about high school. Where high school? I know you went to East Boston High, right? and you Notre Dame prep.
I got like the craziest story with high school.
Yes, talk about that.
My freshman year, I went to Westy, which people don't know.
Westy.
So I went to Westy, but I didn't play. I didn't think the team was that good, and they told me if I played, that if I did leave, I would have to sit out and all that shit. So I was like, fuck, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So I left there, and I actually got seen by a coach from Lynn. He was coaching at St. Mary's in Lynn.
Right.
So my sophomore year, the summer of the, prior to my sophomore year, he seen me playing BNBL. I'm dunking on, I'm 15, but I'm dunking and all that then. So he was like, you know what? I give you a scholarship. You can come play for me in St. Mary's in Lynn. I'll never forget this. So I'm like, I go home. I talk about it with my sister, my mom. They thought it was good for me to be out the city. And even though going from Mission to Lynn every day sucked, I did it.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget this. I had none but all A's and B's for that semester. He didn't make me try out, and he told me there was a kid named Thad Broughton. I'll never forget this shit. There was a kid named Thad Broughton who was like a junior. He was, ahead of me. And he was like, Thad's going to be my starting point guard.
Right.
So I'm going to have you play JV. So I didn't get a chance. Like, I did see Anderson when he was at Lynn English.
Yeah.
He was torching people. And so I wanted to play him. So I'm like, yo, this kid's nice. I'm from the city. He probably don't know who I am.
Right.
I didn't get a chance to play out there because I transferred to Eastie within that same, that November, December.
I'm going to stop you right there. So I'll tell you a funny story. So, I got a friend that played over in Lynn. A lot of people. I know people from Lynn. Mm-hmm. They said, Will Blalock came to a practice or a tryout, ran one suicide and ran out the door and never came back.
That's not true. No, that's not true. I hate people that say stupid shit.
They say he ran out the door.
I did the practice with the JV team because he said he was going to be play JV.
Yeah, that's wild.
He had me watch the varsity practice, and midway through it, I needed to catch a train.
Yeah.
Like it was only like, you had to catch a train from Central Square, Lynn, and that last train was at that time, 8:30, whatever it was. Practice was from, 6:30 to almost 8:45-ish. I couldn't wait the whole practice.
Yeah.
So I didn't really tell him, but I'm like, I'm still going home. I'm out of here.
I'm out.
So I walked. It was 10 minutes from the school, and I got on that last train, and I went to North Station.
And you never came back.
And then I already had it in my mind that I didn't have no cell phone and shit then, so I had to wait till I got home. But I already made up my mind, I'm not going back to that school. There's no way I'm playing JV behind a guy that I feel like I'm better than, and at least put me on varsity and we could play together. I'm not playing JV.
I don't even know that name.
I didn't even come here for that. And it's sad to say, that same summer, I was destroying guys that's ranked at the national level.
Right.
And this dude had me getting ready to play JV.
That's
was just
crazy.
It was demoralizing to my psyche, to my motivation to even want to finish playing basketball, everything. I'll never forget, he sat down with me and said, I'm going to have you watch practice, but I already have a guy a year older than you. He's going to be my starting point guard. I'll never forget that.
That's wild.
And it had me even when I played ball then, I was kind of I already played with an edge, but I feel like that conversation with that coach, I don't even remember his name now, but
you remember
that
the
right
player.
there made me want to destroy people from the get-go.
Right.
Know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I feel like I needed that, and it was pivotal at that time. Know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
For the way I played. I always already had fancy handle. I was more athletic than most guys my size. But I felt like I needed that more fire sometime, kind of like that kick in the ass that some people be needing.
Right.
And I needed that.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like it was a humbling thing because I wasn't full of myself.
Yeah.
I always carried myself as a humble guy. I still do to this day. But that right there lit like a fire that just never ended.
So from there you went to Eastie, right?
Right.
I remember I seen you play in Eastie for the first time, when I knew exactly who you were, right? it was, I don't know if I was in college yet or if I was in high school, because I went to high school 2 years in New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
So I came down, you was playing, it was East Boston High.
Right, where Charlestown.
It was
Those
Charlestown
games was crazy.
So yeah, that's who you were playing, and I remember you caught it alley, and again I was like, this dude's athletic. This is the first time I see you take off. It was like boom, just rockets. Y'all end up losing that game because you know Charlestown was packed.
They was better.
They
were
better.
better.
But that was the first time I said, this dude's got something else. You know what I'm saying? Like he has something. He's going into the next level. And then of course I seen you AAU and everything like that. But talk about, so you went East Boston High. We'll fast forward and go Notre Dame Prep. Mm-hmm. Talk about your prep school experience and how differently it was from high school to you're basically a pro in prep.
Right. Prep school, I felt like was the best preparation I could get for college. One, it was in Fitchburg. I was away from Mission.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like no going home every day. You couldn't go home on weekends because we had practice and games. And we could be in New York. We could be in Buffalo. We can be in Afghanistan playing with that team. We had a 40-game schedule for prep school.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was so many guys at a top level. At Notre Dame Prep, we had 20 players on the team. We had two teams, the A team and the B team.
Yeah.
So if you played like shit in practice, chances are you was going to be on that B team. And nobody wanted to be on the B team. So it was a slugfest every time, competitively for practice. And also, Coach Barton really he used to light fire under people.
Right.
So you would come Monday through Friday ready for blood at practice, you know what I'm saying? Because one, there's probably 15 Division I coaches just watching you practice, but also he's on, he's giving you that talk like, chances are you probably ain't gonna go to none of these schools because, I'm telling you to front the post or telling you to play behind. You keep playing behind. If you go to school with PJ, you're gonna play behind him like you playing behind him in the post. Like he would have you ready to clothesline. You know what I'm saying? So I felt like that was the best preparation I could get, and we were ranked nationally because we were a good team. Right. But also other teams was loaded. Mm-hmm. Like everywhere we went, New Hampton, Winchendon, St. Thomas More, Brewster Academy, all those schools they had the same amount. Like if 20 kids on my team, everyone went Division I. Yeah. Every other school had 15 kids. They all went Division I. Right. So every single game was you know what I'm saying? It was either a slugfest or you just was better than them and you end up blowing them out. So at this point, you was getting heavily recruited, no? Right. Now, did you do five-star camp? North, where did I go? New Jersey. It was Eastern Invitational. I didn't do none of that shit. So the only thing I did, I won the Nationals with Leo my sophomore year, BABC in Detroit. Right after that, I went to the Super Showcase with the juniors. We lost by a buzzer beater in the championship. Same thing in the Peach Jam. We lost championship
Peach
buzzer.
Jams in Georgia,
Peach Jams in Augusta, Georgia.
So you was getting that exposure all over the country.
Right. Yeah. So right after those camps, Nike All-America camp invited me. Right after they seen me win the Nationals and then lose the last two Nike events in the championship with the juniors. Mm. So I got invited to the top 100 and at Nike All-America camp. I want to say that was in St. Louis my first year. And that's when I first met like LeBron. I seen like Carmelo Anthony, all of them was there. Lou Aldang, Shannon Brown. It was nothing but pros. Everybody was pretty much a pro that went to that top 100. Yeah. And that was another eye-opening experience for me too, where I was just like, wow. Everybody, like, depending on what city you're from, like, is loaded. Like on my team, I had PJ Tucker and Paul Millsap. I always wondered then, like, damn, them motherfuckers, they grab every rebound. And now when you see them play now, it's like, they still grab every rebound. Know what I'm saying? Like, they was doing that shit sophomore, junior year in high school at Nike All-American camp, and they just continued it. So you was getting heavily recruited. What are the top 3 schools that were recruiting you at that specific time? At that time, well, I had an interest from everybody, but at that time, I was only considering UConn, UCLA, and I want to say George Washington, and that's only because Carl Hobbs from Boston was coaching them at that time. Okay. So I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, and it's a story behind that too. So when I was at Notre Dame Prep,
Right.
all these schools are there, and they, UConn offered me right on the spot, UCLA right on the spot, Pitt right on the spot, St. John's, you name it, right? And I'm showing love to Carl Hobbs because he's from Boston, but the only reason why I didn't visit that school is because I never forget when I first went to Eastie and I started getting a buzz.
Yeah.
He was real cool with my assistant coach at the time, Dave Siggers.
Right.
Dave Siggers. Dave Siggs called him after I had 36 against Charlestown, like, hey, I want you to come up here. We got a guard, da-da-da-da. And I'll never forget, it was on speakerphone, just back in the Nextel era. You can hear everything in the fucking Nextel.
You got the chirps, you got...
He called them and explained everything. Will's planner. He's having a hell of a year. You should come see him. You should really take a look at him. And Carl Hobbs was like, he's not ready for this level.
Wow.
And it kind of like stung me again. It was almost like the St. Mary's coach all over again. Like,
Right.
man, these dudes don't want to see me like. And that was another thing that I was just like, damn. So now I go from playing against like Chris Paul, Darius Washington, Kyle Lowry, all in one summer.
Yeah.
And get the best of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the first one there, like, I'm ready to offer, da-da-da.
Yeah.
But all I can remember is the Nextel conversation, like, a year ago, like, you just said I wasn't ready for this level.
Yeah.
Now when you see all these Coach K and them at the games, now you want me to, like, know what I'm
Right.
saying? So it was kind of a bittersweet moment, even though he offered me, he like sent the limo, had the limo driver have a basketball, like, we're gonna put the ball in your hands from right here until you get to Logan. I was like, oh, I'm not going there. I'm gonna take a fucking visit somewhere else. I'm not going there. So
He had he had the limo with the basketball in it.
yeah, and like, I'm gonna give you the ball from day one, so you can take it now, type thing.
But he didn't believe in you.
But a year ago, he just didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't believe in the hype, and he didn't see the vision. So it was hard for me to see that vision
Right.
of being this point guard.
So why Iowa State?
Wayne Morgan, he was my coach. Well, I committed to Larry Estacey when I first got there.
Yeah.
And as soon as the day I signed my letter of intent, he went on ESPN and said he's an alcoholic. He got to step down as the coach.
Oh man.
So I got a call from the AD at the time, and he was like, Will, I can take you out your letter of intent. We would love to have you. I'm going to be looking at a bunch of different coaches. And I told him, I was like, to be honest with you, I really like Wayne Morgan. He was like the fourth assistant then.
Yeah.
I was like, he's the one that recruited me. Mm-hmm. He's the one that did all the legwork. He's the only one I communicate kind of with pretty much. So I got a better rapport with him. If you give him a nod for coach or at least give him the interview, I would still consider it. He interviewed them. He interviewed all these other coaches. And then he ended up getting Wayne Morgan the job. So right then and there, I knew he already believed in me. He's going to give me the ball. He's going to let me play my style of play, and we was going to be successful. So it was kind of a no-brainer after that. But the only reason why I would say I didn't go to UConn, honestly, and as much as I don't really tell people, they'll probably only hear it now.
Yeah.
When I went for a visit there, I felt like I was just as good, if not better than Talik Brown, but because he was a McDonald's All-American and he was going into a senior year and I was only going to be a freshman, Jim Calhoun sat me in his office and was like, to be honest with you, you and Ben Gordon's going to be the future, but it might not be this year. Y'all will have to split time and this and that with Talik Brown. And I wanted to go somewhere and play right away.
Right.
So that was kind of my only reason for going to Iowa State, to make a name for myself. It wasn't like a powerhouse like Kentucky, but it was in the Big 12. And I felt like if I can compete in the Big 12 with the rest of the guards, that it was guards at every other school, I was like, we'll put Iowa State on the map, and I could do it from here. I don't really have to go to Kentucky or,
for the record,
Arizona.
For the record, you're better than Talik Brown.
But in hindsight, I wish I would have went to UConn because, first of all, I would have been a national champ. My freshman year, they won it.
Yeah.
And then Talik Brown would have been gone. And then it would have been me and Ben Gordon and,
I forget who
it would have been. Yeah,
Josh
they had a boat the very next year. But, I mean, I wasn't thinking like that then. I wasn't thinking, 2 or 3 years ahead. I was thinking of, I kind of want it right now type thing.
And that's like the youth now, right? They think They don't think bigger picture.
And I also didn't have like a big homie, so to speak, to tell me like,
Yeah.
you know what? If you just wait your time, you might play 15, 20 minutes this year. The next year, you're going to play all the minutes. But I happened to go to Iowa State, and I'm glad I made that decision because I was the blueprint for Shabazz.
Yeah.
Like, so I felt like I had to go
Shabazz
through.
Napier.
Yeah, I had
Okay.
to go through all that for him.
Yeah.
And then when I was able to go through that, I would not let him make the decision to go to another school instead of UConn. Like, no, you going to fucking UConn.
Right.
You're going to stay, you know. I left my junior year. No, you're going to stay till your senior year.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so I was a big part of all his decisions, and I felt proud after the fact. I didn't know going through it that I needed to be someone else's blueprint.
Right.
But now when I look at it now, that's exactly what it was.
Yeah. So we'll talk. So the backcourt at Iowa was you and was it Stinson?
Me and Kurt Stinson.
Now, you hear his name more than Will Blalock at that specific time, right?
Right.
Now, I felt always growing up, it was always backcourts. It was Will Blalock in this. It was Will in this. Will in this. You was always labeled in the best backcourt. Do you feel that you've been underrated in growing up as far as how you played the game and always being better? Like, for example, I feel that you're better than Talik Brown. I played against him. I played with you and against you, and I feel that you're a better point guard than he is. But do you feel that you have been overrated in your career as a basketball player?
I was not overrated. I would say
Underrated,
super
yeah.
underrated. Yeah, for sure. I mean, even when you look at it, they always used to say me and Steve Haley was the best backcourt in the country in AAU.
Yeah.
I left there, went to prep school. They said me and Gary Irvin from Brooklyn was the best backcourt in prep school.
Right.
I get to college, statistically, and, you know, depending on who you ask, Fran Schiller was like our guy on ESPN
Right.
games. He always said me and Kurt Stinson was the best backcourt. He always said in the Big 12, but he started saying in the country too. And then he labeled like Randy Foye and Kyle Lowry and, you know, second behind us, even though they
Right.
won the, you know, they didn't win the chip. They went to the finals.
Over
I
there
think,
in
or something,
Villanova.
when they lost to North Carolina. But everywhere, every step I went, I was always labeled as the best backcourt, but I never really got that hype as
That
the
notoriety.
main guy
Yeah.
for whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe because the way I played, though. I never was like a selfish player. I was always the guy that didn't
Facilitate.
mind getting an assist over getting a bucket, even though I probably got more buckets than the other guy in the backcourt with me.
You scored 1,000 points.
Yeah,
Yeah, you on that list.
yeah. Yeah, I scored over 1,000 in my 3 years when I was
Right.
in school.
So you'd like to facilitate first. You're a point guard.
Always.
I feel
You know why though? Because I grew up idolizing Magic.
right.
And that's what I seen him do. I didn't ever see Magic get 40 and then have 2 or 3 assists. He always would score
Yeah.
his 17, 18, but he would always give James Worthy and,
Right.
you know, all them other dudes just so many dimes and stuff on fast breaks and stuff. And that's kind of what I wanted to label kind of like the way I played after. Like, so
Yeah.
everyone loved to play with him. He was always had a big smile on his face. He was moving and grooving. And I liked watching that. Like, so I wanted to have that same success. Like,
Yeah.
even in Mission, our teams was loaded, but everybody loved to play with me because they know they're going to get the ball.
Yeah.
And I still had the opportunity to get my own, but I always was more concerned about getting other people their shot because I was going to have the ball 85% of the time anyway.
Right.
I could take a shot whenever.
So you mentioned leaving junior year when you mentioned Shabazz. So why did you leave junior year and not finish out like a Tim Duncan and do 4 years?
Honestly, because they had like some scandal going on with my coach that really never happened, but it was their way of trying to get him out of there. They wanted another guy who happened to be, you know, Doug McDermott.
Yeah, yeah.
His dad.
Wow.
His dad was the coach at Northern Iowa when I was at Iowa State. And I'll never forget, we getting ready to play them, and the media, same thing how it is now, all these cameras in my face.
Yeah.
And they kept asking me the same question over. I'll never forget this. They kept saying, because I went to the NITs my freshman year, this is my sophomore year now.
Yeah.
So they asking me, was I envious of them because they went to the tournament and I only played in NITs.
Wow.
And I kept telling them for like 2 or 3 times. I'll never forget this. I kept saying no. You know, they're up and coming program. They're really good. You know, we've been competing at a high level. Wish them nothing but the best. And the guy kept saying, well, you just not envious of them for their success and your shortcomings.
Yeah. So they
and then I kept still trying to be, professional. Like,
PC,
no,
yeah.
I'm not, whatever. And then he asked me again. And then I just snapped. And I was like, you know what? If we played in that same fucking cupcake conference that they playing instead of the Big 12, and we don't have to compete against Texas, Oklahoma twice,
right.
Tony Allen and them, I would go to the tournament every year too. And then that was in like the biggest paper in Iowa the next day. And it gave them more firepower coming out because, of course, their coach at the time was Doug McDermott, senior, and he put it all over their locker room. So they were fired up, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Even though for me it wasn't a big game, I was just like, oh, it's Northern Iowa. They're good, don't get me wrong, but they picking up full court. They was all over. The battery was crazy.
Yeah.
But but I felt like when they gave him the job, I didn't really have a conversation with him. I wanted to come back.
Yeah.
But he went and told the media he's changing completely everything that we stood for as a team.
Right.
We had nothing but athletes that ran, jumped, we fast break, we pressed teams, we got after people, we pressured the ball. He said we were going to change completely everything. He's going to have me walking the ball up court, giving it to a big kid in the middle. A kid's going to go backdoor like a Princeton-style offense.
Yeah.
I walked right out of that media session like,
I'm out.
I already had the mindset I might as well start working out
and
getting ready to go pro because I wasn't going to play in no Princeton offense after I've been playing fast break basketball the last 3 years. I'm not doing that my senior year. I just averaged 16 and 6 assists. I'm going to go give it to someone else so they can make the play put the onus on like a 7-footer to make a backdoor pass in the Big 12. There's no way.
No. Definitely not. So talk about, you just said going pro and starting to work out. Who advised you or what advice in that process did you have? Because junior year, you got to know you're going to get picked up,
I didn't know though.
So you just went out on a limb?
I just went on a whim and I put the confidence in myself to go out. I want to say I worked out for like 15 different teams.
Mm-hmm.
And after the first 3 workouts, I kind of had an idea that I could play at that level. I just didn't know 100% that I would get drafted.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like the only crapshoot. You kind of betting on yourself, but no one's giving you enough feedback to be like, you know what?
Yeah.
You're going to be a pro. Like, I didn't even when I worked out for Detroit, I had a really good workout. I'll never forget. But even sitting down with the GM and the president of the team at the time, they kept telling me like, good luck with everything else.
Right.
We got the last pick in the draft.
Yeah.
You're not going to be there at that time.
Right.
But good luck with everything type thing. So I left there confident, but not too confident. And then betting on myself too much kind of ruined it because I switched agents on the day of the draft, which is like the cardinal sin of any type of draft you can ever do. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I had a guy in Chicago who was setting up all my stuff, flying me everywhere, putting me up everywhere, and I worked out for all the teams. And then I kind of came home, spoke to Leo, and Leo was like, you should go with Frank. Frank's my guy, and, this and that. And it was kind of like, all right, I'm going to listen to Leo. I'm going to sign with Frank.
That's passing lane.
And it was kind of, it was kind of like, I shouldn't have did that because the guy I was with at the time, Mark Bartelstein, who's probably one of the best agents fucking ever, he had me set up already to go in a draft at like 38 to go to Utah to back up Darren Williams, which I didn't know. He didn't tell me that either.
Right.
But the day of the draft, like, even when I think about it now, like, what made me do that? But I already was betting on myself, and I kind of like I didn't have no reassurance that I was going to get drafted, but I had the confidence to know, like, I kind of outplayed everybody that I had to play against that they said was better than me. So someone had to see that.
Right. Yeah.
So it was kind of one of those things.
That's wild. Pasadena was my first agency.
Yeah.
Like right out, that was my
Yep,
first agency.
I signed with Frank, but I dealt more with the guy that was out of LA, Charles Bonsignor.
Yep.
So I dealt with more with Charles. Charles was good. If I could have Charles as my agent alone, it probably would have been better. But Frank kind of was overseeing stuff, and he just didn't really have a clue. He was kind of on his way out.
He was.
It was like me and David Wesley was his only clients at that time. David Wesley was like at the end of someone's bench in like Charlotte, wherever he was at, and he didn't really check on me, call nothing. It was kind of like, so every time going to practice every day on Chauncey Bill, it's like, man, Will, you don't have no like basketball card deal to get you some quick money? You don't have no, and I'm just like, no one ever told me that.
Yo, it's wild. I was in Portugal. That was my first job. And I got MVP of the league. I averaged 26-9. And I got home, and they didn't even know.
Crazy.
They didn't even know I got MVP of the league.
They don't do their homework enough. And that was kind of my reasoning. Like, I gave them till, like, right after Christmas. And right after we played, I want to say we played, we played like the Phoenix Suns when they had Steve Nash, like 2 or 3 days.
So wait, let me just stop you real quick. So you decided to enter the draft,
right?
And what year was this?
06.
2006. You decided to enter the draft. You weren't advised to do it. You just went. I'm gonna gamble on myself.
I just bet on myself. Yeah.
Now you get drafted, if I'm not correct, 60th, right?
Right.
So. And this might, I'm not trying to be an ass, but so how did that feel betting on yourself, getting drafted 60th, with other people like, oh, I know he's nicer, he's better than that, he's this and that. But in your mind, you're like, yo, I just got drafted to the league. It don't matter from 1, 2, 3. I got drafted to the league, and you bet on yourself. Just talk about that process as far as your mental in that point.
I mean, it was my mental at that time was super strong, only because when they show you the amount of people that got to go in the draft.
Yeah.
Like, so that's what kids like. Everyone has a dream to go in the NBA, but when you break down the numbers and the reality and the way they break you down mentally as a person, as a ball player, is mind-boggling. So at 06, if you can remember, that was the draft that had like Brandon Roy, LaMarcus Aldridge, Rondo was in my draft, Kyle Lowry was in my draft, Jordan Farmar coming out of UCLA. Yep. It was only but so many guards. It was only like, I want to say with me at the end, it could have been 5 at the most, 6 point guards taken in the whole draft.
Yep.
And when you bust down the numbers, like, so all of us, give or take, is the same height, 6 foot and under guards. Right. Kyle Lowry, Rondo, all of them included, right? There was like 8,000 to 9,000 people worldwide in that same draft with us, that height.
Wow.
So,
wow.
Yeu from Saudi Arabia, kids from Poland, kids from Greece, kids all from over. Lithuania. There's 300 and some Division I schools. Let's say 3 or 4 of them guys are seniors. They all automatically go in the draft. Those are that's thousands right there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Kids coming out of high school at that time. There was like 8,000 or 9,000 guards, 6 foot, my height, in that same draft. Wow. And only 60 people get picked. Yeah. So I felt great. I ain't give a fuck what nobody felt that I went last. And I switched agents on the same day of the draft, so I wouldn't have went last.
That right there.
So that right there, like, I don't really feel like, Gilbert Arenas was the last pick in the draft. Right. You know what I'm saying? I don't feel bad at all. Like, it was, to me, that was a success story as far as I look at it.
It definitely is success. So Detroit Pistons drafted you. They picked you up, right? Yeah. Now, as being that pick, what do you have to do to make the team?
So the first step is Summer League. So Summer League for me in 06 was Vegas. Yeah. So you play like, let's say 7 games against other guys that got drafted from other teams. But you also got to practice there. Mm-hmm. So after whether you have success there or, someone got to take a liking to you, you get invited to a training, like veteran training camp is what they call it.
So let me stop you. What is that environment like? Because I feel in summer league, when I watch summer league, I see people that was just in college. So
and that's what it is. So it's a mixture of college guys that didn't get drafted.
yeah,
There's guys from all these other countries that didn't get drafted. There's guys that been having success, saying like where you played, like you was the MVP and all that. They would invite people like that from Greece, from
All over.
Italy, Spain, all the top leagues, China. The leading scorer in China is always gonna get a summer league gig on one of these teams.
Right.
So you got to compete against not only those guys, but guys that got drafted that might be in front of you.
Yeah.
A guy that's didn't really have no success, but he's already got a year in the league. He signed, say, last year in 05 draft.
Yeah.
Now he's playing summer league for 06, trying to prove himself that he got better, stronger. So it's a lot of different variables. And you're also playing in front of Larry Bird, guys that own teams and shit.
Right.
So it's a lot going on, and it's fast moving, and you're in Vegas.
Vegas,
so just
baby.
imagine they give you a little pocket money that they give you for meals and shit.
per diem,
and you could be sitting at the table till 2-3 in the morning, and then you got to wake up in the morning at 11 a.m. and practice, and now at 3 and 4 in the afternoon you got to guard Steph Curry.
Yeah.
What I'm saying? It's reality, and it moves fast. So you got to do all that. You got to have some success there. That's like the first stop. You get invited to training camp, which is in end of September.
So you got to go through all of that just to get invited.
Just to get invited, yeah. Because once you get drafted, there's no guaranteed deal for a second round pick.
Yeah.
So if you play shitty, let's say 2 or 3 games, they could just call you right after the games in Vegas and be like, PJ, thanks for everything, man, but we're all set.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They don't have to let you play all 7 games.
Right.
They don't have to do anything. And God forbid you go out there, roll your ankle the first practice. Now you don't get the nothing. They don't sign you. You just go. So you be the guy that got drafted and then nothing.
Right.
And where guys get it mistaken, you can also get drafted. The team might not like you when you get there and you're practicing playing well, but there's overseas teams. There's other opportunities there to watch you. So you still got to play your best. So say in 06, Detroit drafted me.
Yeah.
I played well. They didn't like me. Say, they already had Chauncey Billups there who was a finals MVP.
Right.
They might have said they didn't need a point guard. There was other teams that might have took a liking to me, and I could have signed with someone else.
Yeah, I forgot you played with those vets. So now you get drafted by Detroit. You got Chauncey Billups, Rasheed Wallace is over there, Ben Wallace over there.
No, Ben Wallace wasn't there.
He wasn't there yet.
Ben Wallace took a big deal to play in Chicago after I got drafted.
Okay, but that's not what I was going to.
What?
There's a Christmas. I guess it's a hazing.
Oh God, yeah.
So there's a video out there.
But it wasn't hazing. For the people that's watching it wasn't a hazing.
What hazing is
I just was the only rookie on the team in 2006, 2007.
Yep.
So I was asked at media day to do that video. I was only supposed to do it by myself. That was gonna suck. But because they took a liking to me during training camp, Rasheed Wallace and them told me they would do it with me.
So for people that don't know, the video is I if I can remember, you have a Santa hat on, and
I don't have no hat on.
You singing Jingle Bells.
I am. I'm mic'd up, and I'm
He's
singing.
like Jingle Bells. Jingle.
So I'm the and people get it misconstrued all the time. You can only hear me because I was the only rookie. I was the only one,
Rasheed,
I was the only one that had a mic on.
Okay.
They was kind of like my backup dancer, so to speak.
Yeah.
So it was my whatever. I had to do it, and they just kind of helped me out.
That was your acceptance.
But that was
league,
my
right?
right. It wasn't a rookie hazing thing though. Like I've been through so much worse. You have no idea.
Yeah.
But that was more of it was planned. They wanted me to do it. I was the only rookie at the time on the team, and that was.
And the crazy thing,
I was the fall guy.
Rasheed Wallace was gigging to it in the back.
Right.
I got to bring up that video some way, somehow.
And he's at that time he was the highest player on the team. He didn't have to do that shit at all. He was getting $15 million that season.
Yeah.
He didn't have to do that shit at all. But he did it he took a liking to me, and that was what he did.
So talk about the experience, just being around those guys, those vets that's been in the league, that $15 million guys, or Chauncey Billups that's cool as a cucumber and already won a championship, how they took you under their wing or didn't,
No, they definitely did. As soon as I got there, I feel like I didn't have to pay for much of anything around them. They always made sure I saved my money. But it was definitely like a learning curve because I had to learn that offense and what they wanted from me, and
you had to learn to be a pro.
And you had to learn to be a man too off the court.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so it was a lot of it's a lot of distractions in Detroit if you allow that into your system.
Right.
But because they were already 10, 12, 15 years in the league, they didn't allow me to, fall victim to that as a rookie.
Right.
So it was kind of like a good thing. Like, 'cause so some teams, there's a lot of young guys, so you gotta police yourself.
Right.
But with them, I didn't have to worry about that. They kind of like kept me on the straight and narrow. 85% of that team was married, so it wasn't never no like going out and doing all that.
Right.
Especially, well, not in Detroit for sure. So that kind of like kept me, and also. God rest his soul, Flip Saunders was a coach.
Right, yeah.
His playbook, I still got the playbook to this day. The playbook, bro,
it's crazy.
Was crazy. And as a point guard, it's easy for me to like study a playbook and be like, okay, well, he wants this on this side, he wants this on that side, and knowing where I gotta go.
Yeah.
But as the point guard, you're like the quarterback. You gotta know where everyone else is going to.
Yeah.
It was kind of overwhelming.
It was like Jaren Jackson's playbook for Canada.
But being around Sheed and Chauncey and all of them, as ill as they was as players, they were even better people.
Right. So
So they kind of would break everything down, and they would make my job a lot easier instead of me feeling like I'm overwhelmed. Because Flip Saunders would just like practice would be tough. But the second practice for 2 days during training camp, it would be nothing but like dummy offense for like 2 hours. And you had to know every play.
just skeleton.
And so you would just watch, Chauncey and them kind of like go through the motions.
Yeah.
They would run the play. And then he'd be like, all right, Will, your turn. You run the play. And it's just like, God forbid I'm not paying attention or just don't remember that play from studying it in the book. You look like an idiot out there.
So it's not like college when you don't understand a play.
When you don't, nah.
And
It's
you
one of
can-
those things where like Chauncey and them would run it, boom, dummy offense, boom. They would make it all look easy because they know all the plays. And then it would be my turn with Amir Johnson, Jason Maxill, guys that came off the bench. And if we fucked it up, he'd just be like, get out the way. Chauncey, come on, next play.
Oh, man.
It would never be nope, you got to do it over till you get it
Right.
right. It was like you either knew it or that was fucking it.
So your opportunity was very slim.
The window for opportunity on those teams that got, out of the 15 guys, 12 of them are veterans, slim to none. There was no room for error.
Wow. So we'll fast forward to Rodney Stuckey, right? So this was what I thought, and I'm sure other people. I was like, he's a 6'4" guard, right? Play the same position for the most part. I don't know if he can shoot better, you know what I mean? But he's bigger. He can probably defend other guards.
Right.
I say, you know what? He came in and he took Will's spot. That's not true.
Right.
So what is the story behind Rodney Stuckey coming in and you, I guess, vacating the team?
Well, what people always get that mistaken, but I only had a 1-year deal with Detroit.
Yeah.
Like, so right after we lost to LeBron in the Eastern Conference Finals, I was
He
no
took
longer
over and just went animal?
He went crazy. I was no longer with the team anymore contractually. It was already done. It was a done deal.
Yeah.
So once they decided to and they moved a lot of people. Like Chauncey got traded for AI. Like it was a bunch of moves and stuff. Rashid left. It wasn't just me, but also they were just moving in another direction. It didn't have really nothing to do with me.
And it's business. It happens.
And it's just business. So
right.
what they do is say we beat LeBron and them, and then we go and win the championship in 07 and beat the Spurs.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have, nothing would have changed. Everybody would have
stayed
came
the
back.
same,
It
right.
would have been all good. But because we didn't win, and they kind of was, that was like, they kind of gave Chauncey and them that window of opportunity was basically for them. They had to win it that year.
Right.
And they was going to break it up.
Yeah.
Tayshaun was going to want more money. Rip was going to be, at the last couple years of his deal. Chauncey was getting older. Rasheed was getting older. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They just was ready to break the team up. It didn't have nothing to do with me. I just happened to be the lowest guy on the totem pole, and that was kind of it. But my contract was gonna end no matter what,
regardless, right?
Yeah, so it had nothing to do with Ronnie.
So you went from Detroit, and then what was the gap? Where'd you go from there?
So I left there. I did summer league in 2007 with the Denver Nuggets.
Yes,
with J.R. Smith and them. I didn't get the opportunity to play with J.R. Smith. He had like a car accident like 2 days before summer league started and killed like his best friend.
Wow.
So he came out there, but he didn't play. I played well, and I ended up with this is where the fork in the road happened. So George Karl and them really liked me, and they wanted me to go to Denver.
Yes.
They was going to give me a partial deal to play in Denver, or I had another guy that was kind of like recruited me, a coach that was in the number one. They wasn't number one. They might have been number 2 team in the country out in Israel.
Yeah.
So that was my opportunity to go overseas.
So what's a partial deal?
So a partial deal at that time, I want to say they was going to give me, don't quote me on it, but maybe like $150,000 to like basically go to training camp, and they might cut me there and keep that 150, keep me till like Christmas time,
right? And
then have to decide again whether they're gonna keep me for the year.
Yeah.
So at that time, that was the partial deal, but the overseas team came and was like, well, they was gonna give me $800,000 for
over
2 years.
Israel.
Yeah, I was just like, I'm fucking gonna
That's
go
a
over
no-brainer,
here.
yeah.
I'm gonna go over here and fucking, So that was kind of like when the fork in the road happened. But in hindsight, when I think about it now, I kind of should have just stayed home and took that partial deal and again bet on myself.
Yeah.
But I had a whole lot of other stuff going on with like going from college where I pretty much played every minute of the game to playing behind a finals MVP, and I only played 10, 12 minutes a game. The games I did play, it was kind of like one of them things where I just wanted to be free and I wanted to play.
Right.
I didn't know if I was gonna have that same opportunity had I went to Denver. They already had Andre Miller, and I can't think of who the backup was at that time. Maybe little Earl Boykins.
They definitely had Boykins.
And I would have been either the third point guard, or I want to say they had just in that summer signed like an older 35-year-old guy as a third point guard. And I told George Karl kind of like, thanks, but no thanks. Yeah. And then I took that deal to go to Israel.
So you went from the big stage, as people would say, the NBA, to overseas life, which is just as big, but people don't understand.
It's a crazy-ass grind over there, though.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Talk about the grind over Israel. I never played in Israel, but I heard they be throwing M80s and all that.
It was
drums all over the
It
place.
was wild. Needless to say, I ended up getting a buyout, and I didn't stay there long. I didn't like it.
You was out.
But I would say the food was good. The people were real arrogant there, though.
Yeah.
Like, and just everyday life was not ruined, but kind of, there was a lot of obstacles in your way. Like, so it wasn't like the freelance of being home. When practice is over, I can go to a restaurant, eat. Out there, they had a time out there where everything was shut down.
Wow.
And you would just have to wait 2-3 hours later. So whether you want to go grocery shopping, go to the movies, just pick up like some quick McDonald's, everything would just be on break for like 2-3 hours in the middle of the day.
So if you're not used to that, that could do a lot to your psyche.
So it would ruin your schedules. Like, so you go from, say if you didn't, we had 2 practices a day over there. Say if you went to practice on an empty stomach, you practice for 2.5 hours. Once you stretch and all that, you shower, you're starving now. Yeah. The restaurants and shit would be closed from like 11 all the way till 1, 2 in the afternoon. And you're like, if you don't have food in your house, you're fucked.
You're done.
Know what I'm saying? Like, so that's another way you had to adapt. And then, like I said, you had 2 practices. So your next practice would be from like 5 to 7. If you didn't eat in that window when the place first opened, everything's packed. So now you got to wait in line. So it was like you had to get used to that. You had to get used to like a language barrier where like no one might not know English.
Yeah.
So you're gonna be getting fucked up on screens.
Yeah.
You know, like people
maybe on
set
purpose.
illegal screens and they don't know whether to call it to you or just yell your name, like, cause they don't really know English. Like,
Now, talk about the transition back from Israel. So you got a buyout.
I ended up getting a buyout for like $250,000, and I got a first class ticket right out that country. But my agent at the time was real good, so he kind of already knew that, you know, just stuff wasn't gonna work out there, and I was just like, I'm not homesick, but I don't want to do this right now.
Yeah.
So I ended up playing in the D League, and I didn't even go home. I went right to Anaheim, California, to play for the Anaheim Arsenal. So I did that as soon as I came home, and I had some success in the D League. I played well. We lost in the playoffs, and then I did summer league. That same again, like just trying to chase the dream. So I did summer league that following summer. I can't think of who I played with, which is crazy. So I'm drawing a blank.
So summer league, you played in summer league, and I'm sure
Matter of fact, I went with Durant.
with K. Durant.
This is Durant and Jeff Green's rookie year when they first got drafted to Seattle. So that's who I played with summer league.
So you were a veteran in a way.
At that time, yeah.
Yeah.
So I was 2 years removed from school, and I've been overseas. I got my feet wet over there for 3-4 months, came home, and, you know, so I would consider myself a veteran at that time with them. They were kids.
Yeah,
18, 19 years old. And that was another thing where I felt like it was a fork in the road, where it was like all my ducks was aligned. Like I played well. They liked me. And the GM,
What team is this?
Seattle, was
okay.
from Massachusetts.
Wow.
So me sitting in there with him during the interview, we didn't talk none about basketball. We talked about being back home and what's a good restaurant to eat at, shit like that. The whole hour I was there with
And
him.
how that make you feel?
And I felt comfortable because I felt like, you know what? They like me on the court. They like me as a person, clearly. And then this dude's from Massachusetts. It's a no-brainer to sign with them.
Right.
And then I was supposed to fly out there. This is after summer league, of course. So just like
So you play well in summer league.
play well in summer league.
You're
I go
likable.
home.
Yeah.
I'm likable. They like me.
You feel comfortable.
Everything, all the ducks was aligned. They had me fly out there. I was supposed to sign. I was supposed to do a physical with the team doctor. I had one like radio interview set up, and then sign that same day, get in the paper, all that, and then fly back home for the summer, just to enjoy the rest of the summer before training camp. The day I was supposed to fly out, I had a mild stroke at Logan.
Wow.
I was at the gate.
Damn.
Yeah, and it kind of that railroaded everything.
So now was it a stress related thing, or was it just a condition, or what? How did that happen?
They said that it was triggered by I kind of had some at summer league, and I remember the play and everything. It was crazy. So it was a big boy, if you remember the name, Jelani McCoy.
Yeah, I do.
Big boy from UCLA.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
He hit me in my neck when I was going to the basket one time, and I never got it checked on, but I was in a lot of pain. Like I fell to the floor.
Yeah.
I might have like hit a camera guy over. Like it was one of them type of things. But I didn't get out the game, and I didn't get an ice pack after the game. I was on my Boston, my tough man shit, so to speak. And it kind of bit me in the ass later because that stroke happened like, let's say like a month and a half after. And they told me when I got the BMC that I had a blood clot in my neck.
Wow.
And it was from that. It wasn't from like stress related.
Yeah.
It was from
So you got hit in your neck.
being hit in the neck.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it happens a lot often than none.
It does. Even with football players, I would say way more than basketball. As much as you're banging helmets and all that stuff, when those guys get older, they're gonna be fucked, so to speak.
So if you get on that plane, it's a wrap.
Yeah, that's what they told me. If I would have boarded that plane, I probably would have died because they would have had an emergency land. It would have just been too late.
Yeah.
Because all my oxygen kind of was done.
Right.
Like, so but I didn't know what happened. So I was on the phone, if I can remember the whole story. I had an iced tea in between my legs, and I was on the phone with my right hand. And I told my man at the time, Sean Davis, that I was going to call him when I land in Seattle.
Yeah.
And then he was trying to tell me something. Something happened on fucking Facebook. It could have been something on social media at the time. And I was going to retrieve the iced tea in between my legs. And I felt it with my fingers with the cap.
Yeah.
And as I was going to grab it, it was kind of like my arm just died. Like, as if like, you know how like you're laying on your arm and then you lose feeling it, but after a while the blood flows and you're back again. It didn't never come back too.
Yeah.
So I had to grab my arm with my right hand and lay it on my lap. I had a lady like right next to me reading a book. And so she's just reading a book. She's not thinking none of it. But I got off the phone with him kind of panicking like, shit, I got to call you back. Something's wrong with my arm. And at that time, he's like, man, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
So I go to get up. And as I go to get up, I could feel all my weight on my right side. But then when I try to shift it to the left, I didn't feel nothing in my leg. And I fell back fast as shit on the chair. And the lady that was beside me reading the book, I remember seeing her run to go talk to the people on the podium.
Yeah.
Because at that time, I was really just going to check my ticket, but my ticket was on my left side in my pocket. So I couldn't reach sitting down. I had to get up.
Yeah.
But I knew I was in like one of the first couple seats. I was on a first class flight. So as I'm getting up to try to get the ticket, I remember putting a little bit more body weight on my left and I fell back. She ran to go get help. Mm-hmm. And the only thing I remember is I closed my eyes and I prayed because I didn't want nothing to fuck up with this opportunity I got. So I'm like, come on, Lord, I already had a crazy situation. I don't want to go back overseas. I'm trying to get back in the NBA. I've been doing everything like, and then when I remember opening my eyes, the emergency response team was there from Logan with EMS. And they kept asking me, was I okay? What's going on? And I was trying to explain to them that I didn't have no feeling on one side of my body, but I was slurring the words so they couldn't hear what I was saying. And I was just like, damn, this is like, and it almost brought tears to my eyes. So I'm like, it's a fucked up situation that if I board this flight, it was a guaranteed 1-year deal for almost $1 million. Mm-hmm. And I gotta be at the fucking airport having a fucking stroke.
Right.
And I mean, I didn't know it at the time, but I was just like, and I'm trying to relay that message to them. Like, I gotta get on this flight. Yeah. I can't go to no hospital. I can't.
So you still trying to go?
I'm still trying to go.
Not even understanding what's going on.
Not knowing what's going on with my body. And I didn't get the feeling. They rushed me to BMC, the ER. I didn't get the feeling back on my left side, I want to say till I was at the ER for probably like an hour going through all these procedures and they was doing all these fucking tests on me and stuff. And they had all these cardiologists checking on my heart and all these like, you know, special people coming to see me. And then I felt like I was talking back normal without slurring and I could feel my hands. But at that time, one side of my face was like drooped down. Mm-hmm. And they were saying like they didn't know if that was gonna be permanent or not. But a few days later, it went back normal, and it was just.
So mentally, what does that
situation.
do to you mentally? Because you were just in a situation in Israel, you were not in Detroit anymore. You did well in some leagues. So as far as mental, where are you at now mentally? Shattered
a little bit. You know why? Because after I did my last like EKG and all these little tests on my brain and stuff, I had all my family at the hospital. Everybody's like behind this like bulletproof glass, and I could see everybody talking to the doctor, and everybody's crying. So I'm already like, why is everybody
What's
panicking?
going on,
I'm getting
yeah.
ready to get off this shit. I still got to get like probably a red eye. I got to get out of here.
Still thinking
The
Seattle.
doctor came in and he didn't know me from a hole in the wall. He just know that I came from Logan. He don't know that I play ball, but he's like, yeah, I've been talking to your mom. I've been talking to like your cousins, and you know, they're worried, and they say you're a pretty good basketball player. You played on TV and stuff, and he was like, unfortunately, with the situation you just went through, you're not gonna probably be able to play basketball ever again.
Wow.
And that right there kind of like my heart almost stopped. I was just like, ever again?
Put
Like,
things in perspective.
I'm
yeah.
getting ready to go get on the red eye. I don't know what the fuck you're talking
Yeah.
about, but it kind of had me like shattered, and it had me at an empty space at that time because I didn't know what was going on. He was just trying to explain everything to me, and I felt like everything was blank. I could just remember bits and pieces of him saying like it'd be detrimental for me to do anything strenuous, even, you know, walking up and down the stairs fast because I could fall, have internal bleeding, and die and all this other shit. And he was saying that he was gonna put me on a pill called Coumadin, which is a blood thinner.
Right.
And that was gonna be the way to thin out the blood in my neck for the blood clot. But also, I couldn't have no green vegetables because it would superset what the medicine does. And I was gonna have to stay in town without traveling because I was ordered to go to BMC Monday, Wednesday, Friday to get blood drawn to make sure that the blood thinner was working properly.
Wow.
I was shattered.
So how do you overcome something like that? Being from a neighborhood star to on a big stage star to getting drafted to, even though you felt that it was a lower level of basketball, but it's still a high level playing overseas, to just everything stops. You hit a wall. So how do you? What's that? Talk about that. Overcoming. This is serious adversity.
The build up was so tough, man. Because I felt like, thinking back on all the stuff that I had to go through, from like being like a fucking high school dropout to making it Division I, getting drafted, having some success with the pro level, playing overseas, that experience, and then that kind of like shattered everything. And then I kind of had to like, you know, just being at home, you know, everybody at home,
Yeah.
oh, when you leaving? What are you doing? This and
I know
that.
that question.
I had to go through that for months. It was demoralizing, man. But I felt like it made me, even though I was humble already, it really was like a real big slice of humble pie. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I felt like I had to go through that in order to be like the person I am now, because I felt like I wasn't on like an emotional high in the NBA. Like I wasn't really full of myself.
Yeah.
I didn't walk around. I never did that. But I also never felt like I was like the lowest of the low either.
Right.
I was kind of like right in the middle.
Yeah.
After that stroke, I felt like I was at my lowest point when it came to just everything.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I had to go through that to appreciate like small stuff.
Right.
Like, so I never looked at like having a regular job like how I work now, you know, like a thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was just kind of like, you know, that ain't beneath me, but I ain't trying to do that. I want to play basketball till I'm like
hooping.
fucking can't walk no
Yeah.
more. But I had to put more things into perspective after that happened, because I didn't know if I was ever going to be able to play basketball again,
Yeah.
because that's what they told me.
So it goes to say, not everything that someone tells you is true.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The
Right.
doctor was saying what he thought he knew professionally,
Right.
but it's not the case. So you overcame that. Who was in the corner? Where'd you get your support from during that toughest time?
Definitely my older sisters, my mom, my dad, just the regular people that been in my corner from the get-go. You know what I'm saying? I didn't really have I had friends, but I didn't really lean on them as much as I leaned it on my mom and my dad, because, you know, they done been through it all. They've been with the highs and lows with me. It was just a lot easier to talk to them about the situation that I'm in, and giving me that confidence to like, Man, nobody never said you was gonna come out of mission and go to college and be successful playing basketball. Who's to say this is where the story ends? Like, just keep going at it. And I had a breakthrough when I went and got a second opinion from a doctor who had just did a surgery for Teddy Bruschi, because at the time the doctor that I had, he took all my old records and found out that I was born with a small hole in my heart in the 80s.
Okay.
So he tried to say that, you know, not knowing that I played basketball, not knowing that I got hit in my neck.
That was the problem.
He thought that was the reason. Mm-hmm. So in all my paperwork, if you go through it, it says he was born in 83 with a small hole in his heart. You know, that's the cause of the stroke, which we found out later wasn't. It was the
Bruce Lee chop.
The fucking karate chop to the neck. Mm-hmm. So Teddy Bruschi had a stroke for the Patriots.
Right.
He went to the same doctor that I went to, who my agent at the time had set it up for me to see that same doctor. He met me at Children's, even though he worked out of like Beth Israel or somewhere like that, Mass General downtown. And he went through my groin, how crazy it is, with like a camera and like a little thing that looks like a butterfly to close the hole in my heart.
Wow.
So even now, like when you do any type of thing with my heart, I don't have a hole. Like skin grew over it and it's just closed now. But that wasn't the first doctor basically told me, like, you ain't gonna be able to play again. You're still gonna have the hole in your heart could re-trigger that and you can have another stroke and you might, whatever, be paralyzed, this and that. The second opinion doctor told me he would close the hole, he would keep me on that medicine, the blood clot will go away and I'll be able to play again. Yeah. That's all I needed to hear. You know what I'm saying? So that was my motivation, and I had my family pulling for me, so that's where I kind of gained the strength again to be like, you know what? I can still do this after that.
So you started playing. Were you nervous when the first time you started dribbling and shooting?
Yeah, because and that's another crazy thing. I bet on myself again. I took a deal to go overseas in Germany without I ain't touched the ball in months. Yeah. So they called me, like the GM got my number and stuff. They called me on Skype.
So 1 second, we'll go back to Skype. So did everyone know about the condition? What happened?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So they were well aware that I had a mild stroke. But this dude had seen me play with Durant and them, and he was like, I don't care about none of that. If you can still play, and I told him, like, I was advised by my doctors to not work out. I couldn't do nothing. I haven't touched the ball. This is when I started gaining weight. I was like, I haven't touched the ball in months. I'm overweight. Like I haven't did anything physical in months. And I had just got cleared to like start playing again. He's like, I can have you on a flight tomorrow. I don't care about none of that. You know what I'm saying? And at the time, they had like a little young kid out of Michigan State named Drew Neitzel, who was good. Yeah. But they wanted me to like help him be a better point guard. Yeah, okay. But also when I get in shape, they want me to play. Right. So at the time I'm going back and forth, and then they were just like, well, we're gonna give you $15,000 to $20,000 a month to get in shape, help this kid out, and then when you're able to play, play. Right. I got on that flight the very next day, out of here. So I didn't play for like my first like week and a half there. Like I met all the dudes on the team. But I had to go through so much shit when I got there, as far as like stress tests and EKGs with all these specialists. You know what I'm saying? Like they had me like taping all this shit to my chest and riding treadmills, and I did that for like the first 2 weeks I was there, just to make sure they wasn't getting damaged goods. Like I wasn't gonna fucking collapse in practice, and as
they should.
Right. Which is what they had to do, but all of that shit was stressing me out too. Yeah. Like being in a foreign country I never been in. They don't really speak English. Everybody's flying on the highway. Hitler got like a fucking, there's no speed limit. Everybody's flying on the highway. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like everything was different, man. So that's funny. I had to get used to that. I had to learn how to drive standard over there. Like that was a new thing. So it was a lot going on at once. But I felt like once I got in shape, once I was able to play, I starting, of course.
Yeah, everything.
Know what I'm saying? Everything kind of went back normal. But I had to get used to like getting hit with contact. You know, overseas they do a lot of like moving screens and holding people and
a lot of hackers over
double
there,
teaming with the big man every single pick and roll. I had to get used to all that again. So it was kind of like, you know, it's almost like a guy that got hit with a car and now he got to keep going to rehab and learn how to walk again. Shit like that. I had to learn how to like play again. And but I had fun and I loved it and I enjoyed it. And I felt like I was more happy playing knowing that a guy told me I wouldn't be able to play again.
Yeah.
So there was like the joy of being able to be out there, being in the locker room.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? All that stuff came back and I took complete advantage of it, but I also was happy with that part of it, that aspect of it.
I'm glad you brought that up, brother, because I seen you a couple years later. You was with a Happy Meal in Australia with the McDonald's. You was like,
that was my favorite place to play and live. It ain't even close. It was amazing in Australia.
Yeah. That's when I started seeing you, you know, happy again,
being
playing.
back to me.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I would say definitely like I had the best setup ever, bro.
Those Happy Meals.
I
man,
was fucking I mean, we was we was endorsed by McDonald's,
right.
So I did get 50% off no matter what
Got
McDonald's I went to.
50% off McDonald's.
Right. But McDonald's is expensive as shit over there.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
A number one over there would cost you like 15, 16 American dollars.
That's wild.
So I had the illest setup though. I was in like a 4-bedroom condo at the beach. Like, so when I opened my back door, it was sand to the beach.
Yeah.
It was fucking 90 degrees every day.
So you deserve, I mean, everything you went through, you got to the point that you had some success as far as your living arrangements overseas wasn't as bad as it was previously.
Right.
So everything
and
was
I appreciated it that much more after that.
Right.
You know, that kind of like bump in the road for sure. Like, so everything was like heightened as far as me being appreciative.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't have that same appreciation when I played in Israel that I did when I was in Australia.
Yeah.
It was just completely different. I took everything as like a professional, everything I approached, like practice, you know, being on time and, you know, just staying later and just my attention to detail on the court. All that stuff was more heightened after the stroke.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, before we wrap it up, man, I just want to say this story about Canada. That's where we played and we were roommates. And I thought that was a dope time because that's when you were very humble up there. We won a lot of games. This was a time that the NBA, I don't know if there was in a lockdown situation. I can't remember exactly.
It was.
But you get a call, and I was like, damn, Will's out of here. This one we had a nice team. Probably would have won the championship over there.
Yeah.
But this one you left, and you say, you know what? I'm going to give it one more shot. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if they just need me for a body for training camp or they really want me to play. This was with Bobcats, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep,
they were Charlotte at that time.
Yep.
But I thought it was dope. It was a testament of who you are. I said, you know what? I've been through all of this, but I still want this. You know, I still want to try. You know what I'm saying? I just want to try. And you went there, you know, whatever the case may be. They were, you know, whatever it was. But I felt that you had to do that for you personally. Because I was thinking, I'm like, damn, why is Will leaving? Like, we got it all right here. This is the spot.
I know. At that time, my agent kind of kept egging me on to like, he really wanted me back in the NBA so bad. And I wanted it too. I just didn't know at that time if I was in great enough shape to like really give it my all at that time. Because in hindsight, if I would have had the same shape I had, let's say in 06, 07 when I first came out, against like when I was in Charlotte, it was DJ Augustine and Kemba Walker. They're two midgets. I would have had a field day every day with them, you know, but my body was different. I was at least 15 pounds heavier playing in Canada after the stroke than I was coming out of school. all of that, I would say, played a major part in whether they was going to give me the yay or nay when it came to making that team. Because even when I first got there, I sat down with Jordan, which was pretty dope. That was my first time ever meeting him. He know my name, and I'm just like, this is crazy.
Right.
And he's like, Will, you ain't just coming here because of the lockout and we need a body. We want to take a look at you. And it was kind of like, damn, okay, well, he's going to give me a legit shot at it. But, you know,
That's dope on its own.
It's super political when it comes to the NBA too.
Right.
So they didn't, like, no one went to training camp and made that team. Everyone that was already under contract just stayed on the team.
Yeah.
Like, that never happens, but that happened then. So,
But for you, I feel like that was a victory, though. You know, even though you didn't proceed and be on the team, but I felt having a stroke, and I'm not trying to speak for you, but having that stroke and then getting called up to go on that team, and Mike Jordan talking about, hey, we want to make a look at you. I feel, or take a look at you. That's a success right there.
yeah, I look at everything I had to go through as a win, only because I always feel like people didn't ever give me the benefit of the doubt. I'm so used to people saying, like, I was too small, I'm never going to make it, shit like that. Should have went to another school. All that stupid shit, and still having that success. It's kind of like I always was, I thrived off that. So even like the first story I said with the whole, when I was at St. Mary's and Lynn, when he kept saying, I got that broken. Yeah. I always, every
fuel.
step, I always thought about that, like shit like that. Like, you might not make the team in Detroit because, they got Chauncey there, and it's kind of like, I'm gonna be just fine. I'll figure it out when I get there. I never really counted myself out listening to people, because if I listened to people, I just would have never played, because I would have played JV. And had I listened to this dude about some fucking Thad Broughton, you know what I'm saying?
Right, yeah.
So I always had that in the back of my mind when it came to taking people's advice. And also, the people that try to give me advice never did it.
Yeah.
Like, so it would be Joe Blow that never played ball would come to me like, man, if I was you, I would have did X, Y, and Z. And it's like, you never really played ball. Why are we even having this conversation?
Yep.
But I would, I'm humble enough to like not go there with people. But in the back of my mind, when I, when I got to really indulge and think about the conversation I had with some people, I'm just like, had I listened to you, I would have never, you know what I'm saying? So I never really, always betted on myself. I never really took people's advice that never did it.
So we're going to end with this here. There's a story floating around, and the person that told me this, you did this to them.
Wow.
Now, is it true you dunked the ball, I don't know if it's off the miss or an alley, and rubbed Rashid Al-Khalil's head?
That's true. Yeah.
He told me that, and I was like, yeah, right. Because Rashid, that's my man.
Yeah,
So that's true.
Yeah, so we was playing that. Do you remember the Jackson Man, the JMCC?
I do.
Preseason tournament, high school. So this is before he committed to Florida. I didn't really, I knew who he was, but like, it was one of them things when I first got to Eastie. That was the first thing we played in the preseason shit. Playing against them, the gym's packed. Yeah. Like, because everybody want to see Eastie versus Charlestown, whatever. I didn't really know all the hype about that school, whatever.
Right.
So it's the first half, and I'm playing with my man Dave Palacio.
Yeah.
Dave missed like a corner three, and I just timed it. I was already on the other side of the court.
Yeah.
I didn't see Rashid down there at the time. All I'm thinking about is
the ball. If
the ball bounced my way, I'm gonna dunk it. I'm on this side. It's perfect. I've already timed it. My steps is already perfect.
Helmets. Yeah.
I didn't see him until I was already mid-air and it was too late. Mm-hmm. So once I caught it, I grabbed it with two hands and I just dunked it. The only time I did see him was at the end, where I could kind of see he's doing this, like as I'm like getting ready to come down. Yeah. And everybody, I could just see everybody's reaction. Everybody went crazy. And when he put his head down, it was just like it was a dickhead move at the time to do. But I was just like, I'm going to hang on the rim and I'm going to fucking rub his head.
That's
and
hilarious.
Like people went from like, ooh, orange to when I rubbed his head went crazy. So it's kind of like,
I wish I had the tape of that.
It was kind of like one of them moments for him where it's like, he seen me he probably peaked up. I was already in the air. It was too late anyway, and he didn't move. He just sat there.
And Rasheed doesn't take himself too seriously, so he talks about
but
that.
Yeah, that's a true story. That's funny that he brought that up, but that's a true story.
But Will Blalock, my brother, I appreciate you coming in, dog.
Man, thank you for having me.
We got to do it again. Leaving this, I feel that you should always bet on yourself.
Always.
Because it's worked in your favor. You know, you overcame a lot of adversity in life, period. Not just on sports, but just in life. And you know, you was off the scene for a while, but just because you're not seen doesn't mean you don't have that success, you know, because you don't see success sometimes doesn't mean you're not successful. Right. And in my eyes and in the world's eyes, brother, you very successful. And I appreciate you coming in. Oh, you messing up my mic and everything?
I appreciate you having me. I don't want to fuck the mic.
Yeah, this is another episode of Underrated Success.
Underrated success.